Bravo! Welcome to Professor Skye's Record Review, the only first listen new music review show hosted by a French professor immediately after leaving the YMCA. Now, I'm not going to be reviewing a new album today. In fact, I'm going to be reviewing 156 of them. That's how many new albums I reviewed this year. That's not counting all the reissues and all the weird extra things I did. That's not counting like the 10 videos I made about seeing Hippocampus in concert. It's me going through and finding the best of the good. Now listen, I'm just like you. If I see, Todd in the Shadows or Needle Drop, and I see they have a best of and worst of video, I'm always going to click on the worst of. Because it's stupid, it's fun. It's much easier to look down on something and say, than it is to actually figure out what makes something good. So I don't do that. If you see I review a video, that means I give it the thumbs up. That means I give it a 7 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10. There's enough good music out there. My nephew's on his way here from Pittsburgh. That's where he lives. And he loves listening to music with me. And to his credit, he listens to my recommendations. So this video is partly a year-end review and also partly getting ready to see my nephew. Because, the question is always, is there any good music out there? And the answer for most people over the age of 20 is no, it used to be good. Let me show you 26 albums that I believe make the top of the top. Now I'm going to do this quickly. I'm not going to spend a long time on each album. I have an old take of this video where I spent a long time talking about each thing and it got boring and I got sad and I just looked down like this and then hit stop. So I'm just going to go through my 3 categories that I review on this channel, basically. Rap and hip hop, electronic and instrumental, rock and pop. And then at the very end, because who doesn't like the top 5, I'll give you the top 5 out of everybody in order. Okay? So, let's get through this, huh? Maybe I'll do one sentence about each. Let's see if I can do that. For rap and hip hop, I'd say number 7 is Dave and his album Psychodrama. It is lyrically masterful. It is important. The song Black is maybe the best song about being black on a global scale in human existence. British, engaging, very cohesive. It's about mental breakdown. 6, Injury Reserve. Idiosyncratic, funny, almost party raps out of the Southwest. There's even a redheaded guy. I think he might be the first ever white redheaded successful rapper. The track Jailbreak the Tesla is just the greatest banger of the year. Funny, silly, very well produced. It follows one of the primary rules of hip-hop groups. If you're going to have 3 different people or 5 different people or 10 different people, make sure each one of them has their own voice and you can pick them out. Each one of them does. An even better example of that is number 6 for hip-hop, Griselda, WWCD. This album is amazing. I reviewed it almost a month ago, and okay, it's too bad it's all about crack, but the production is amazing. It turns out what I thought were all old, cool 70s Wu-Tang style samples are all just made by these guys. They're great. Each person has a voice. The album is filled with little slang that just gets thrown out there. My kids and I just can't stop saying, "Right brick on my brick." That's from one of the songs, Dr. Birds. And I looked it up. It's about cocaine and fashion, so that's boring. But still, if you miss the Wu-Tang, like I do, and if you think that hip-hop could still do something in that domain, listen to the new Griselda album. Because it's not like old people making old music. It's new people respecting old music and making great, awesome, as I said, elegant crack raps. Speaking of Wu-Tang, 4 on the rap list is Czarface, and their album Czarface meets Ghostface. Czarface is Inspector Deck from the Wu-Tang plus 7 L and Esoteric, the producer and rapper from Boston, and with Ghostface Killah. Ghostface Killah's solo album could also be on here. I'm making the case that Ghostface Killah is the most consistent rapper of all time, and maybe one of the most consistent musicians of all time. He started in 1993 or 94, whatever, and from his first verse until whatever weird featuring he ends up on, wherever the hell he is on the rap spectrum, he always brings the best verses. And this album is fun, it's goofy, it's nerdy. It's like a nerdy comic book Wu-Tang mashup. It's very good and very well produced. Number 3 is Danny Brown's You Know What I'm Saying. Again, a very kind of psychedelic, almost far out there, very advanced production, excellent rhyming. The guy's very funny. It would have been higher on the list, honestly, if he weren't so misogynistic. So if you're okay with crack, listen to Griselda. If you're not, don't. If you're okay with some misogyny, listen to Danny Brown, but it gets a little bit rough at times. I mean, not like Too Short bad, but like it's basically the only thematic. It's one of the trickiest things about hip hop is, people tend to like rap about one thing, which is not the case for my number 2 rap album of the year, Earth Gang. I love this album. Earth Gang and their album Mirrorland. Part of the reason it's so high up is that it's not a throwback, and I'm trying to be a good, part of this thing, new music is the fountain of emotional youth, as I like to say, spiritual youth. So like, I don't want to like just find music that reminds me of Wu-Tang and say that's the best rap albums of the year. But Earth Gang, it's from the South, it's very modern, they have a lot of weird sort of guest people on there, but it reminds me more of Outkast without being just like an Outkast clone. But Outkast did something amazing by having 2 very interesting Southern rappers and a crazy soundscape and lots of great wordplay, but no one seemed to follow them very successfully. Earth Gang has. It is a great record. If you love hip hop, you have to listen. Okay, if you love hip hop, my number 1 suggestion actually doesn't fit. So if you love hip hop, my homework for you, out of this whole list, is listen to Earth Gang and Griselda. I think if you listen to those 2, you have the best idea of some interesting, good things happening in hip hop. And of course, my number 1 hip hop album of the year is Jesus is King by Kanye. The album is a goddamn masterpiece. He's constantly pushing things forward. He's on another level again. It's not his best album. It's not. It's not even one of his top 5 albums. But I absolutely adore how Kanye consistently evolves his art, how he consistently involves new elements into it and makes these things that are important. Jesus is King is an extremely important album. And for that reason, I love it. All right, now I want to talk about electronic and... So I had to stop the video. I have like props of like all the albums that I bought that are on this list, but I left them downstairs. I actually bought Jesus is King, but in Kanye fashion, it's not here yet. I should be honored by his lateness, as the man once said. Okay, so let's move on to electronic and instrumental music. It's kind of a cheating category, but realistically, these are the 3 genres of music that I listen to. Number 9, I only have top 9 here. I'd say is Chemical Brothers' No Geography. In a similar way that like I'm struggling with things that are just throwbacks to things that I remember when I was younger, Chemical Brothers' No Geography is just a straight up big beat 90s style electronic dance music album. But that style is amazing. I love that style, and this is very solid. Gesaffelstein's Novosonic System is number 8. Great record. Very consistent. What I said, it's kind of like a shoulder shrugging album. It reminds me a lot of Bangalter style from Daft Punk. Very moody, atmospheric, and just a nice kind of thumping record. Number 7, and this is the first of the albums that I've actually purchased, is Flying Lotus's Flamagra. I'm not gonna lie, the main reason I bought this is because I like flashy things. And look at how beautiful this cover is, right? And then you're like, what? It's a pop-up book. I know. I'm a bourgeois pig. But the other reason I bought this album is that it's still growing on me. I'm pretty sure this might end up being, I might look back on this list in 5 years and be like, how did I not put Flying Lotus number 1? I've only listened to it like maybe 15 times, but like, it's very deep. It's like, it jumps all over the genres. It's kind of funk, it's kind of electronic, it's kind of like soul, it's almost like soft rocky at points, but it's a very deep, meaningful, artistic album. Okay, I'm gonna sort of say like, if you're into like art, you know what I'm saying? Like if you like being like a smarty smart pants guy, this might be your album of the year. It's a super smart album. Plus, it's got David Lynch going, "There's a fire is coming." Number 6 is a late edition, Fly Pan Am, C'est Ça, the Montreal group. It's just a psychotic art album, very dismantled. I struggle with music that is kind of anti-music because I don't really know how to recommend it, but I just really enjoy this record. If you like anti-music, disturbing, distorted, electro, rocky weirdness, listen to Fly Pan Am's last album. Number 5 is Patricia Taxon's Victory Lap. That's the only one that's not on Spotify, I think, and not on Tidal. I've reviewed 12 Patricia Taxon albums this year, and soon I'm going to be making my sort of best of Patricia Taxon. I've suspected that if she took like 1 or 2 tracks from each album and made one album, it would be one of the best albums of the year. We'll see if that's how I feel when I actually do that. But this album, Victory Lap, is just completely fun. It's like she took all these weird samples and mixed them together. It's a copyright nightmare, but it's just done in a way that's very engaging. It feels like you have a friend who made this awesome thing and you're like, nah, too bad no one's ever going to hear it. But like you actually get to hear it because she released it. It is just an absolute delight, and it's weird, and it's very well done. And you end up listening to it and just like getting a little bit stuck in your head. Okay, so it's like mixing some meme video from 2010 with like some Bjork song, right? It's not like she's really creating anything, but in the truest sense, she is. Because that's part of what this weird postmodern world is that was brought to us by hip hop and techno, is other people's art is our art too, if we want it to be. Number 4, I would say the album that I would have predicted would have been my number 1, Mode Selector, Who Else, which is sort of the most disappointing album of the year, despite the fact that it's one of my favorites, but I love Mode Selector. Very strong album. It's just not up to their last album standard, but still the most cerebral, well put together. It's an easy listen, but it's a challenging listen, if that makes sense. Like it challenges you intellectually, but it doesn't challenge you like in terms of what you're listening for. Very strong album. Number 3 is the Serbian-Moroccan album, Tapan meets Generation Tagagalt, which is this great combination. It's sort of world music, really, because it's like an electro group working with a Moroccan, Berber, Saharan sounding blues group and mixing together something, and it's really nice to listen to. It's better than most techno and even better than most kind of African blues. The combination of the two is outstanding. Number 2, a little bit of a surprise to me, was DJ Snake's Carte Blanche. It's just a really good, at points it's bad, like there's a couple bits in there that are kind of like Spanish. It's like, but it's just as far as like a long, full album, a very of the moment production. There's like dubstep in there, and there's like kind of trancey stuff in there, and the weird Spanish stuff and reggae stuff. It's very much of the moment. It's not like your NPR techno, you know what I'm saying? But like, I just listen to it quite a bit, and it gets you pumped up, and it's sort of like the Earth Gang, where I'm trying not to just review things that remind me of things of when I was younger. My number 3 was the Serbian group. Number 2 is a French group. My number 1 is a French-Serbian group. Zdravo, Sebastian. He's French, but his family's from Serbia. And Thirst is just the best techno album, best electronic dance album of the year. It's got one of the best tracks of the year, Run For Me. It's a good companion piece, I would say, to Mode Selector, because they're both similar in the way that they're challenging but easy to listen to. Like Fly Pan Am and Patricia Taxon are kind of attacking you, and I like that. But the production on the Sebastian album is just spectacular. The sounds that he's able to make, the fact that he's not just copying Daft Punk, but he's learning from Daft Punk, which I think is what the best artists do. Gesaffelstein's pretty similar in there too. So I would say, really, if you're really into electronic dance music, listen to Sebastian and DJ Snake. I think that's a pretty good example of sort of the kind of highbrow and lowbrow. Not lowbrow, but lower brow. Okay, which now brings us to the rock and pop category. Number 10, Beirut Gallipoli. I didn't listen to this album all year. I reviewed it, and then I went back to listen to it. And then I was like, oh, damn it. This is a really good album. That's why it's number 10. It could be higher. The reason I didn't listen to it is, it's not the kind of music I gravitate to. It's a little bit too down. Same thing with my number, wait a minute. Do I have 11? I do. I have 11. Rock and pop. So that was 11. Number 10 is Bon Iver's I. Very similar to the Beirut. I didn't listen to it, but when I went back to re-listen to all the albums that I really liked, it's an amazing record. It's what I like about Bon Iver is that the emotional strain that comes through his voice. That and mixed in with that is some very forward-thinking production, almost anti-music, in fact, like very challenging in a way it's even difficult to listen to. But it's a very solid and engaging album. My number 9 pop and rock album of the year is a little bit of a surprise to me when I went back to listen to everything, but it's Melanie Martinez. Hey, look, it's another pop-up album. This is my daughter's record. She has 2 albums on here. And on the one hand, Melanie Martinez is this pop creation who is on The Voice or I don't know what, American Idol, one of those things. Bachelorette. But this record is all about being in high school and middle school and about the difficulties of that. And it's really well expressed. And when I listen to it and I think about my daughter listening to it, I'm happy. I'm happy because it's not saying like, hey kids, drink your milk, stay in school, do your homework. But it frames the difficulties of growing up, particularly the difficulties of growing up as a young girl in America, right? It frames them in a way that's very real, while advocating for good choices without being cheesy about it. And then the whole production aesthetic is all around like, wheels on the bus and everything's sort of tied around things that happen in a school. It's sort of playful. It's kind of childish. But it's a very good album. This year I've been looking at a lot of the top 10 charts and most of them include Lana Del Rey's album. No, don't listen to this. This is a better album than Lana Del Rey's album. I get why people like the Lana Del Rey album, because she's dark and she sings like this, and she seems more authentic, but she's not. Lana Del Rey's album was produced by the same guy that produced Taylor Swift's album. They're the same album. Actually, Taylor Swift's album's better. Norman F. and Rockwell and Lover are Jack Antonoff albums. Okay? Congratulations, Jack Antonoff. But this, you want to listen to a great female-led pop album, you're much better off with this. This is much more personal, interesting, well-produced, and cohesive than either of those 2 albums. Even if she doesn't... I'm sorry, I liked the Lana Del Rey album when I reviewed it, but now that I see it like at the top of most lists, I think people just want to like it. Same thing with that Lizzo record. People just want to like it, which is fine, but there's enough good music out there that you don't have to want to like things. You can just find things and then like them yourself. Jack Antonoff. All right. Number 8 was another surprise. I went back and listened to it and I'm like, oh my God, I love this record. Juan Wouters, Wouters, introducing Juan Pablo. Very lo-fi. It's just this dude who grew up somewhere in South America and New York. I don't know what. It's just this lo-fi, very personal album. And I use the word delightful a lot, but it is. I remember what I said about it was that I care about this person. He sings in a way that makes me care about him. Great record. Number 7 is Toy, Songs of Consumption. That's the one that's a covers album, but they're great covers that make you want to learn more about music. Very well produced, like kind of like New Order-y, sort of underwater New Order covers. Excellent. Number 6 is Swans, Leaving Meaning. I got my signed copy. That was kind of exciting. I love the Swans. It was great to come back to them. Very, old. Dude's old. Dude's older than a lot of rock stars. but it's just great. I listen to it all the time. Well, my kids think it's too goth for my daughter, which is funny because she often considers herself goth. It's another Swans album that's as good as any other Swans album, which therefore makes it one of the best albums of the year. Dark, guitar-ridden, low singing, horror at the corners production. Excellent. Number 5 is another signed album that I have. By the way, I'd like to make one more pitch. Buy music. If you have money, then buy music. Save money and buy music. Artists don't get any money for streaming. Like basically nothing, you know? And so here for $20, I was able to get Men of the Moment by Man in the Echo autographed. The Trump era, the Brexit era, is difficult to make good art about because you just sound preachy and stupid. Saturday Night Live is a bad TV show because of Trump. This is how you write a social satire. This is how you comment on the time. Because it's focused. It's not about the environment and about sexism and about economy and about racism. Well, it's really focused on the concepts of the way that masculinity, toxic masculinity, affects everything. All of those themes as well. But it's all done with this great rock and roll style. If you like Elvis Costello, you'll like this record. They don't sound that much like Elvis Costello, but it's that kind of thinking. And this whole track 2, Capable Man, it's just wonderful, and it's smart, and it's self-incriminating, like they incriminate themselves. They don't just look down on other people, like they imply themselves in their own weakness. It's a great record. Seriously. I mean, you just buy these 2 records, you are set. I mean, these are some great music out here. Number 4, another one I have not signed, is Pedro the Lion, Phoenix. An amazing look back at his childhood, wistful, sad, a little bit too sad at some points. Rock and roll music that is just solid rock and roll music. You know, my nephew loves rock and roll music. I'm just going to say, listen to Pedro the Lion. It's a heartbreakingly beautiful album. I'm editing this in later. I somehow missed number 3, Bill Callahan's Shepherd in the Sheepskin Vest. The best lyrics of the year, some of the best lyrics I've ever heard, great singing, a little bit folksy, like in terms of the way it's played, but an amazing album and a monumental emotional experience to go through. Kind of similar to Phoenix in that way. And Dave, for that matter. Just very thematically solid album about the self. Anyways, I don't know how I forgot that. Okay, on to number 2. My number 2, another one from my daughter's collection. And this is one that's on a lot of top lists. Billie Eilish's When We Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? It's not a pop-up. Again, you know, save yourself the trouble. This is how you do a female-led pop album. Both of these. They're great. This is on another level, though. You know, it's produced by her brother, and she sings it. My daughter... Well, actually, I got... Okay, she can hear me probably downstairs. I discovered Billie Eilish and did a video about her, and then played her for my daughter. And then my daughter said, "Dad, stop listening." And then she got into her. That's kind of a good dad moment. But... and that was not supposed to be ASMR, by the way. But ever since this came out, I've listened to it a ton because my daughter likes it, my wife likes it, my son likes it. Everything's really well produced. It's similar to Melanie Martinez, where it's like the messages are not like bubblegum happy. They're realistic, they get dark, but for the most part, what she's advocating for is agency in oneself, being in touch with the dark side of life, but not giving into it. It's a wonderful, wonderful album. And then still number 1 in rock and pop is the Andrew Bird album, My Finest Work Yet. This is one of the best albums of all time. So I don't know what I have to do to get people to listen to this album. I seriously don't. Like, eventually, Like my old French professor is still a good friend of mine, and I told him how good this was. And just like 2 weeks ago, he messaged me, "Oh, I finally got into it." So maybe that's you. Maybe you watch my channel and you've heard me say how good this album is and you haven't listened to it. It's a deep album. When I first listened to it, my review actually isn't even that good because I didn't fully understand how strong and how good it is. Going back to the Men of the Moment question, this handles the questions of our age, the political, socio-political, psychological problems of our age, but in a way that is extremely cerebral and not at all judgy and not at all preachy. It's amazing. It's an amazing album. So, what are my top 5 out of all that? Well, let me tell you. My top 5 album, the number 5 album of the year is Thirst by Sebastian. Number 4 album of the year is Mirrorland by Earth Gang. Number 3, Kanye West, Jesus is King. Number 2, Billie Eilish. Number 1, Andrew Bird. So there you go. Whew, what a great year. What a great year for music. If people ask you, how was the year for music? The answer is awesome. On all 3 fronts. 18 hours of great music. I'll briefly mention my favorite tracks. Just these are my favorite tracks of the year. I'll put maybe links to them. Jeez, this is gonna take a long time. Doing All Right by Juan Wouters, favorite track of the year. Who by Mode Selector, second favorite track. Dawn the Struggle by Andrew Bird, third favorite. Run For Me by Sebastian, fourth favorite. Follow God by Kanye, fifth favorite. Black by Dave, sixth. Bury a Friend by Billie Eilish, seventh. La La Challenge by Earth Gang, 8. Yellow Bike by Pedro, 9. Made in France by DJ Snake, 10. Capable Man by Man in the Echo, 10. Hanging Man by The Swans, 11. And Dr. Birds by Griselda, 11. Right brick on my brick! Alright, well, until next time when I review some new music, probably from 2020. The future is upon us. Thank you for watching. I'm now saying Zdravo at the beginning of my videos because my last video about that Serbian musician exploded. So I have to do something for all my new Serbian fans. My subscribers are like, wee! Whoa. Speaking of which, please subscribe. I love getting subscribers. It's really fun. And I get to tell my kids and they get to brag to their friends. So it's perfect. All right, until next time, there's the camera.